Have you ever been tasked to make a boring subject look visually interesting? Sometimes it's pretty difficult because the subject is either uninteresting or has no motion or movement or visual interest. Today I'm going to show you 5 techniques to make your videos stand out. Let's jump in. Number 1, perspective. Mixing up the perspectives can convey different feelings to your audience. Shooting from the worm's eye view, which is an angle from below your subject, can make your subject look more powerful and dominating, while shooting from the bird's eye view, which is an angle from above your subject, can help accentuate how small something is. We're trying to show the viewer a perspective that they may have not seen otherwise. Use these techniques to your advantage to really sell the vibe that you're going for within your film. Number 2, lenses. Changing the focal length of your lens can create a completely different look. Shooting with a longer lens, such as an 85mm, really compresses the distance between you and your subject, and it appears as though you're observing your subject from quite a distance away. Whereas shooting with a wider lens can really put you in your subject's environment and makes for a more intimate shot. Number 3, distance. You can create a very different feeling when you shoot from a greater distance away versus when you're right up next to your subject. Wider shots being better to use as establishing shots for your scene, whereas tighter shots are a great way for showing off detail or specific features you're trying to highlight. If you utilize distance in tandem with lens choice, you can create some really interesting looks. For example, you could use a wide lens and get really close to your subject to create a really unique fisheye look, or you can use a longer lens from a distance and get a really tight shot of your subject. Number 4, depth. Add depth to the scene by shooting through objects, not to obscure the subject, rather to add visual interest. This adds foreground and dimension to the scene. If you're out shooting run and gun and you didn't bring anything specifically to shoot through, just look around and find anything nearby that you can shoot through. Depth is a really great way to help add dimension to what would be an otherwise boring shot. Number 5, movement. Adding movement is probably one of the most important techniques you can implement into your workflow. After all, video is moving images, so we should try to capitalize on that and implement that into our films. Try experimenting with movement from side to side, up and down, some rotational movement. There are a lot of ways to get creative with movement in your films. Here's a quick bonus tip. If you're sick of shooting and seeing everything in slow motion these days, try shooting in 30 frames per second and then slowing it down into a 24 frames per second timeline. At first, there isn't an obvious difference, but it helps to smooth out any minor imperfections in the shot and add a subtle, surreal feel to the video without taking away from the energy. This is a great technique if you shoot a lot of handheld video, but don't want to lean on the crutch that is slow motion. These are just a few techniques that I've learned over my years of filmmaking. Take these concepts and try applying them to your own videos. Combine them, modify them, and just make dynamic films that pull you in and never let go. Here's a video I threw together using the techniques I talked about in this video. That's it for this video. I hope you were able to pick up a thing or two that you might be able to implement into your own workflows. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.